This conference will now be recorded.
Wait, never mind, we have a minute left. You jump in the gun. Oh my goodness. I know. Baby. So, yeah, just kidding. Right? I would fall into this factory. So my mom's.
This just came in.
I thought all these pictures of it was older than it. They would expect it.
Everyone, some people are in the generation. Beautiful, very cool. Everybody. Well, that's so bad. Oh. Pumpkin head.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting of the Town Commission on January 3rd, 2022 at 6 p.m. Thank you to those who are listening to our live audio feed. Just as a reminder that those that wish to make public comment during the meeting are encouraged to attend in person in our chambers or send comments to the town clerk prior to the meeting. Clerk Armstrong, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Koss,
Here.
Mayor DeHassett,
Present.
Vice Mayor Herbert,
Here.
Commissioner Pugh,
Here.
Commissioner Michelek.
Here.
Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and welcome everybody. Happy New Year. Good to see a semi-full house. Okay, additions, deletions, modifications, and approval of the agenda. Town manager, any changes?
Yes, I have a couple of changes here. Item 1K needs to be moved to the regular agenda.
Okay, and where will that move on to the agenda?
We will put that as the first item under regular agenda items.
Okay,
And we'll keep it as 1K.
okay,
And then also, in addition to town commissioner comments for discussion regarding mask mandate.
okay.
1K is the memorandum.
The 1K is this, when Christie flew into there.
Oh, okay.
What was the second one?
Mass mandates underneath comments.
And also, there's one more. Commissioner Michelek, if you wanted to move item 1J,
Is it 1J?
correct,
I
of the
couldn't find
consent
it.
agenda,
Yes, please. Out of the consent agenda.
onto the regular agenda. So that will go as the first item under a regular. So it will be 1J, 1K, and then item 2.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other changes, additions, or deletions to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion on the approval of the agenda as modified.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, that's a motion by Commissioner Pugh, a second by Commissioner Cos. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, moving on to presentations and proclamations. Town Manager Stevens, will you please announce the Employee of the Quarter and the Annual Employee Awards?
Absolutely, thank you, it's my honor. As you know, the Employee Recognition Committee worked on a recognition program this past year, which includes the Employee of the Quarter program. The Employee of the Quarter is recognized at the Town Commission meeting, featured in the town newsletter, and receives an award certificate and $25 gift card. Nomination forms were distributed and all employees to nominate the fellow employee to nominate a fellow employee for the Employee of the Quarter Award, and we received 2 nominations for the same employee this quarter. The Employee Recognition Committee met and voted unanimously to select Town Clerk Carla Armstrong as the Employee of the Quarter. Carla was instrumental in ensuring that building department operations continued in the absence of the building clerk for a total of 7 weeks. This required Carla to work countless overtime hours in which she is not compensated for since she is a salaried employee. Her extra contribution saved the town a great deal of money, as we did not need to hire a temporary employee or contractor during that time frame. Carla approached this as a learning opportunity to expand her knowledge of town operations as opposed to an obstacle, as she should be commended for this ideology. Our sincere thanks go out to Carla for being a team player and a proud member of our essential team. Congratulations, Town Clerk Armstrong, on your award for outstanding performance.
Don't spend the money all in one place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
She was surprised. She had no idea.
Yeah, you could tell by her face.
And now for our annual awards. The Employee Recognition Program is designed to reward employee loyalty and outstanding service to the town. The awards that were presented at the annual Employee Holiday Awards Dinner represent our appreciation and will serve as an ongoing reminder of our employee achievements. Our first category is the Longevity Service Awards. We recognize and congratulate our employees who have completed up to 5, 10, 15, or 20 years of continuous public service by the end of 2021, and we thank them for their dedication and loyalty to the town of Ocean Ridge. It is a known fact that the most important resource of any town is its employees. We know that our success is dependent on having devoted and capable team members such as you all, and we want to recognize the contributions you have made during your career. The employees that receive service awards are therefore acknowledged and commended for their hard work and continuing efforts toward the achievement of making Ocean Ridge an amazing town to work and live in. Zoe Arnold, 5 years of service. She's a dispatcher. She's definitely not here. Scott McClure, a lieutenant in the police department, 5 years. Myself, 5 years. And Gary Roy, a sergeant in the police department, 10 years. I do not see him.
He's on the road.
Here. Okay, he's on the road serving the town. Our second category is for the employees who had perfect attendance for 2021. Zoe Arnold, a dispatcher. Richard Ermery, a sergeant in the police department. Don't see him here either. Jean Hallahan, our treasurer, she couldn't make it tonight. And Alex Sasov, a police officer in the police department. And I do not see him here either. He's on the road too.
Now, yeah.
He's working.
It's shift change, so.
Okay. Our third category is the Growth Award, which was presented to Aaron Chauvin this year, who is a detective in the police department. Aaron, if you would please rise. Thank you.
He's the one with the cute baby.
Yeah.
Excuse me, in recognition of his growth and many accomplishments in 2021. When Aaron started with our agency, he had no law enforcement experience, but immediately displayed effort, willingness, and desire to learn. Little did any of us know that less than 2 years into his career, he would become the lead detective for our agency. He has created and maintained partnerships with other agencies and has grown to a talented and well-versed and educated officer in a very short period of time. We certainly couldn't function the same without Aaron on our team, and we thank him. Thank you, Aaron. Our fourth category is the Rookie of the Year Award, which was presented to Alex Sasov this year. Alex is our newest member of the police department. We are pleased to have him and look forward to keeping him. We know Alex will continue to do great things throughout his career. We had a couple of fun categories that we did this year. Our Ghost Award was presented to our building clerk, Lisa Burns, for consistently working furiously under the radar and scaring us with her knowledge in building operations. The Foodie Award was presented to Lieutenant Scott McClure, who's in the back. We can always count on Scott to make sure everyone is properly fed and fit for duty. And now, last but certainly not least, I am very honored to recognize our Employee of the Year, Officer Keith Ramirez, who's in the back. Please stand. Keith joined the town as a police officer almost 3 years ago and has evolved tremendously in his career ever since. Keith received the highest number of nominations for Employee of the Quarter this year, and we thought it fitting that he be recognized not as the Employee of the Quarter, but our Employee of the Year. Keith is known for always being happy, always willing to jump in and help out, and always saying yes when asked for help. He is always optimistic, willing to learn, and ready to try new things. Because of this, he is a huge asset to the police department and the town, and we are so happy that he decided to come work with us. We thank Keith for his many contributions to the town over the past 3 years and hope that he continues next year with the same amount of energy and passion that he has shown throughout his career. Please join me in congratulating Officer Ramirez and all of the award recipients.
Wow. Okay. Clerk Armstrong, will you please read the announcements?
The meeting schedule for the next month is as follows. Regular town commission meeting will be held on Monday, February 7th at 6 p.m. Code enforcement hearing January 4th at 10 a.m. And planning and zoning commission meeting Monday, January 24th at 8 a.m. All meetings are held in the commission chambers at Town Hall. Please join us for a meet and greet with Chief Jones on Wednesday, January 5th at 5:30 p.m. at Town Hall to discuss the latest trends in criminal activity, the use of license plate recognition cameras to deter crime, as well as new approaches and programs to be implemented in 2022. One Blood will be at Town Hall for a blood drive on Friday, January 7th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. and on Saturday, January 8th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Town Hall will be closed on Monday, January 17th in observance of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Please join us each month prior to the Town Commission meeting at 5 p.m. for the Building Officials Educational Forum in the Commission Chambers at Town Hall. Details, including topics to be discussed at each meeting, are on the town's website. Residents who wish to sign up to receive important town notifications and news through Civic Ready should sign up on the town's website or call Town Hall for assistance.
Thank you very much. I'll now open the floor to public comment for any topic that is not listed on the agenda. Just as a gentle reminder, we try to follow a 3-minute limit per person.
Can I turn this around?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there.
Stella Cole, 204 Beachway Drive. First of all, I want to wish everybody a happy new year and certainly a very healthy one. Second of all, I would like to thank Carla via the town. It was very sweet of you guys to send me a thank you for, I guess, my help with like the lights and everything. So it is totally appreciated and I appreciate that. And thirdly, I'd like to say we have too many dogs on the beach. We need to do something about this. During this past week, I didn't see one officer on the ATV during the afternoon hours. I understand from other residents there were officers on the beach very early in the morning, like 7, 8 o'clock, which I'm not up to. So I think this is having a problem. I wouldn't be adverse to having maybe another sign directly at the bottom of the steps at the beach, you know, as people are going. I don't know what the problem is, but we need to come up with a solution. As things are going forward across the street, we're going to have more and more of it. We need to issue tickets. I don't know what you need to do. I would gladly help in any way I could. But I just want you all to know it was definitely a huge problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Cole.
Hello, I'm Nancy Fornatora, my husband Gilbert Fornatora, and our attorney Dave
I'm Dave
Markarian.
Markarian.
And I have not been sworn in. No.
For public comment, you don't need to be sworn in.
And the Fornators are 43-year residents at 7 Inlet K, Ocean Drive. And I've been looking after them for a while in certain ways.
Can you speak into the
I
microphone?
certainly can. I certainly can. So I'm Dave Markarian, 2925 PJ Boulevard. And I've been representing the Fornators for a number of years in various ways. And thanks to the commission and staff for allowing us a minute just to call your attention to something that we're asking that you take a deeper look at. And that is a request for heightened interest and for consideration of an action of the Board of Adjustment under the power that you have under 63.93, which empowers an appeal of a decision of the Board of Adjustment. This isn't just like any other adjustment or variance in that. And the reason I mention that is because the commission probably doesn't want to get into the precedent of looking at every single one of these, but rather it's got to be something a little bit different, a little bit special. And here, those features are the following. In 2018, about 3 years ago, a permanent structure was installed similar to this one in a similar location, indicating it was too close to the property line. Violations were found, it was removed. And this is exactly the same installation except a floating dock. This time also too close to the property without permitting, no permission. And so it's not an incident where, and it happens where people do something and don't realize that they've made an error, but this is rather a consistent pattern of doing something, it wasn't right, awareness that it wasn't right, and then doing it again without permission. And so at the hearing of November 17th, when we would call attention to, it was clear based upon the Code of Enforcement Adjuster's official that there were many ways to have compliance occur without the variance. There were concerns, including some people in this room, regarding the negative effect on property values. And so those two sources, along with the Fornators, didn't win the day. And so really, thank you for this opportunity to comment, because it's a way to ask, it's one way to ask for a request that this be considered more deeply based upon the powers granted you under 63.93. I hope I did that okay. All right. On their behalf. Thanks for letting me appear on their behalf.
Absolutely.
Well.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
You had some things to say. You had some things to say. I'll stay with you. Guess he's changed his mind.
No worries. Is there any further public comment?
Mayor, I received one electronically as well.
Okay.
This is for Virginia Sigidi from, she lives at 33 Exora Way. Unfortunately, she could not be here. Greetings and Happy New Year to our council members. As I did at the November meeting, I would once again like to suggest and support creating a local ordinance that allows for walking of dogs on the beach by Ocean Ridge residents. The ordinance could include times such as before 10 a.m. or after 5 p.m. and require compliance with all the same laws that apply to walking dogs in the town, such as leashes, pickup, and registration, etc. I understand that the current law is a Palm Beach County law, and that only because Ocean Ridge doesn't have its own local ordinance. In the absence of that, the county law applies. Thank you.
What was our address?
33 Exora Way.
Okay, thank you. Any further public comment?
Could we claim our time?
Sure.
Thank you.
I'd like to comment on what our attorney has said and bring to your attention that we have made this request before you previously and had not received an answer. So I'm asking at this point in time, will there be an answer and when can we expect one? Because we fully intend to take your answer to our question under advisement and proceed from there. We find that this is a situation that needs correcting, and we will continue our efforts to get it corrected. And we would certainly appreciate working with you to get that done, because it is a situation that it's your code, it's your system, of providing protection for the residents of the town. And when violations occur, there are enforcement procedures. But to me, it's not ethically or morally correct to try to suit after the fact a set of circumstances to bring your violation in code. I don't know where it says in the code that you can do that, but I think attention needs to be paid because there's something wrong when you can go ahead and have a number of transgressions and then request the variance to make that variance suit your transgressions to get a clean bill of health. I don't know that that was your intention, but if it was, it certainly should be looked at. And we would appreciate working with you to do that, because we need to pursue this. It's a situation that was misinterpreted by the Board of Adjustment by saying that they were talking about the precedent that would be said about floating. This has not got what to do with the precedent of floating docks. It's got what to do with people making impact and transgressions on the code deliberately for reasons other than what they state, and then asking for absolution from you people after the fact. It doesn't ring true in any court of law that I know of, and maybe I'm wrong, but we would wish your cooperation, and we would be great. We appreciate it, and we have a lot of information that could assist you in pursuing that direction. Thank you.
Thank you so
That
much.
says it all. Thanks.
Yes. Town Attorney Gado, would you like to make reference tonight publicly, or would you like to prefer to take it offline and contact the couple before us?
Since we received correspondence from their attorney, I did respond to their attorney by email regarding their request, and that direction has not been provided to the town to pursue an appeal.
As far as we understand, your communication indicated you had not received any direction from the commissioners of which direction or which way to go. Am I correct on that?
No direction to appeal the Board of Adjustment.
Yes, no direction, that's right.
So not following your own
No,
code.
no, wait a minute. Does that mean that you're not going to pursue it at all?
Under the town's code, the town commission has the option, just like anybody, of appealing the Board of Adjustment decision. No direction has been given to myself, who would file such appeal on behalf of the town, to do so.
And where would that direction come from if you got it?
The town commission.
That's why I'm here before the town commission to ask you to give somebody some direction about something. But we requested it now 3 times,
I
3
don't,
different times, and we have not gotten an answer, and she hasn't gotten an answer either.
so I would like to ask that this be probably taken offline into our next round of staff meetings. It's not appropriate during public comment to discuss it, because I think we need the education and some of the facts that you clearly have taken the time to do. So I think it would be improper of us to make any type of decision or consensus at this point. So, but you will be given directions before the next meeting.
Good. I would
What
just like
we're
to.
asking, what we're asking of you is a direction of a direction, because we have been before you now a number of times and in writing. And we would like to know if the commissioners intend to do something about their code that's being violated and their submission
I
process.
fully understand what you're asking for. I'm telling you, you are not going to get that answer right now. tonight.
I'm not asking for right now.
Okay.
I'm asking, I would
I
love to
just told you
cooperate with
before
you.
the next commission meeting, you will have
That would be fine.
contact from our attorney.
We'd be very happy to work with you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just ask one quick question? Because
Yes.
I believe there's a ticking clock since that Board of Adjustment meeting that they need to potentially abide by as far as filing potentially an appeal. does that stop with us at this point deferring?
What is the window for appeal for a Board of Adjustment?
They have a 30-day, well, anyone has a 30-day appeal right once the order has been entered. I'm not sure the date of the order. I want to be clear about something. They have the right to appeal, the town has the right to appeal. Typically, in these situations, the town's not going to take a position. The applicant, if they were unhappy with the Board of Adjustment decision, file an appeal, and any neighbor or any person who's adversely affected by the decision of the Board of Adjustment could file an appeal. So that's your option. If the town doesn't make a decision before your time to file an appeal, to secure your rights, you need to file an appeal. You can speak with your attorney about that.
I was told that a letter stating our intent within the 30 days was
Is the
what was
confusion,
necessary.
is the confusion the word appeal? Who are they appealing to?
You need to speak with your attorney about proceedings of how you file an appeal of the Board of Adjustment decision.
So it's
To the
30 days
judicial court.
from when is what I'm questioning. I can't get it.
The date of the order that provided the decision of the Board of Adjustment.
So from November 17th, 30 days, that means that we've already passed and we have no right to appeal.
I can only advise you to
Yet
please get with
we
your
would-
attorney.
Yet we advised you of our intent to appeal, and we were told that that letter was all that was required, and that was within the 30 days. So we have a problem here.
Again, I
Somebody's putting
I
out
think you can
information.
provide legal advice. Please talk with your attorney, and if he has further questions, I'll be happy to talk with him. Okay?
We certainly will.
All right. Moving on to regular agenda items, we'll address agenda item 1J.
Wait, what's the agenda?
Oh, consent.
There you
agenda.
go.
Approval of the consent agenda as modified.
Didn't Tracy want to bring up Matt's meeting?
Nope.
That's gonna be
Commissioner
at the end. At the end.
Very good. Okay, would someone like to make a motion for the
I
approval?
move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
I'll second.
That is a motion by Commissioner Bishalak, a second by Vice Mayor Hurlbert. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Can I just read into records so people in the audience can hear what the consent agenda was and what was approved?
Sure.
Adopt minutes of the special town commission meeting of November 18, 2021. Adopt minutes of the regular town commission meeting of December 6, 2021. Acceptance of the revenue and expenditure reports for September 20th, December 2021 and October 2021. Approve the budget expenditure in the amount not to exceed $87,500 as a best interest acquisition to Murray Logan Construction for the purpose of repairing the bridges at Inlet K Drive, Island Drive, and Sable Island Drive. Approve the budget expenditure in the amount not to exceed $86,000 as a best interest acquisition to Essential Net Solutions for IT refresh project. Approve the budgeted expenditure of $13,905.90 to Palm Beach County for the annual renewal, replacement, and system maintenance fee for the police radio system. Approve the budget expenditure of $650,276.37 for the city of Boynton Beach for their fire/EMS services. Approve the unbudgeted expenditure of $20,497 to Preferred Government Insurance Trust, Pidget, for the additional workers' comp insurance premiums derived from the workers' comp audit. Approve additional vacation accrue in the amount of 40 hours to town clerk Armstrong in recognition of her coverage of the building department due to short staffing.
Okay, we have a motion, a standing motion and a second. Do they stand?
I didn't make the.
Commissioner Bishalak made,
Yeah, Martin did.
yeah,
I made the motion.
yeah,
Second.
and you second?
Oh,
Does it
yes.
stand? Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to the regular agenda, we'll start with 1J, resolution number 2022-01, a resolution authorizing the town of Ocean Ridge to join with the state of Florida and other local governmental units as a participant in the Florida Memorandum of Understanding and formal agreements implementing a unified plan in reference to the opioid epidemic settlement. Town Manager Stevens, will you please advise us on this item?
I'm actually going to defer to the town attorney.
Okay.
The town attorneys have been working on this for.
As you know, Madam Mayor and Commissioners, this is a proposed resolution to enter the Florida plan, which is the settlement of the opioid crisis, in order for the town to receive some funds over a period of years to help address remediation efforts and measures to address the crisis and continuing effects of the crisis. Entering this settlement agreement will allow for the town to receive these funds. They have a limited use and that they have to be specifically allowed for the purposes set forth in the settlement. But I believe the chief of police has identified specific areas where he believes funds can certainly be used in his department to continue with remediation efforts and future efforts. So if the settlement is entered, the town will be eligible to receive the funds. If the settlement is not entered, the town would have to pursue its own litigation against these manufacturers in order to potentially recover itself.
So I've seen this come up in Gulfstream and in Manalapan and actually in Brining also, and all of them felt that it was kind of an easy rubber stamp. It really did not involve any out-of-pocket expenses for us. So Commissioner Bishop, I'd like to understand your concerns.
So basically the reason why I was bringing this out of consent agenda is because I just cannot consent to the settlement. Here's the reason why. Because we're looking at this as free money. And free money, it is not. Let me give you a little bit of a background about this, about the settlement. $23 billion settlement in total. 4 corporations that are entering into the settlement. The settlement is being paid over a period of 18 years. One corporation, Johnson & Johnson, paying it over a period of 9 years. Why does this sound bad? Very simple. 500,000 Americans have lost their life due to the opioid crisis. That was, to a great deal, perpetrated by these companies, by these corporations. They knowingly, willingly went ahead and pushed these drugs, distributed them, knowing that these drugs were not being used for their intended purpose for pain medication, but were abused. They knew about it, and they did absolutely nothing about it because it was more sales. In total, these corporations estimated over $600 billion in profits and are now settling for $23 billion. That comes to a total of 5% of the profits that they made of killing 500,000 Americans. It is unconscionable to even consider such a settlement. It's a slap in the face to every American. And it's a settlement culture that we have come to accept as part of our daily lives, where corporations can do whatever they want. And if they get caught, they pay a little settlement. And granted, in this particular case, the settlement seems to be a large settlement. But as all these municipalities can tell you, the money that they're receiving out of the settlement, it's not even enough to cover the costs that they had endured over the last few years. So it's not a cost issue where we can say, well, you know what, at least they're paying back what it costs us, the taxpayers, us, all of us. It's simply, we're getting away with it and we're keeping most of our profits. That is not acceptable in my book. What does that mean for our town? We're standing to get about $36,000 out of this. I'm sorry, yes, $36,000. Staff actually estimated it at $32,000. Let's say $36,000. We're being generous, we're getting more. What that means to the 1,800 residents of this town, per head, we're receiving $19. Each one of you will get $19 spread over 18 years, mind you. The street cost of an OxyContin on the street, a misused one, is $20. One pill. So we're settling this thing for the price of under one pill per resident to get these drug companies off our backs. Not acceptable. It's just not acceptable. And I don't care if it is $32,000 or $300,000. This money, first off, the state attorney of Florida and all the other state attorneys that negotiated that settlement should be ashamed of themselves. Absolutely ashamed of themselves for doing it. I don't care if we receive those $32,000. I'm going to make a very bold statement here. Keep your free money. I don't want it. This is not what this town should be about. We should be ashamed of taking $30-some thousand as a settlement for $500,000 people that have been killed because of this.
Okay, Commissioner Bishalak, thank you. And thank you for doing the research that you did. I'll now open the floor to public comment.
Stella Cole, 204 Beachway Drive. I personally am so insulted by your comments. I am a very proud American. This is not the place for social issues. Regardless whether you all decide to accept this money or not, that's up to you as a council. But what you're doing, Commissioner, is lecturing to us, and I resent it.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Hearing none, I'll turn it back over to Commission for discussion.
Chrissy? So this settlement has no impact on individuals that want to sue the drug company on behalf of their child? Okay, that's my question.
Commissioner Pugh?
Town's getting $32,000 from, if that's what the state attorneys of the state settled for, that's what they settled for. And if the town's lucky enough, I think the town's lucky to get $32,000, and maybe it's a small slap to those companies, but still it's something. I mean, remember the tobacco settlement? I mean, we accepted money from the tobacco settlement, and that was, how many billions that was the state of Florida got, and every little municipality got a cut of that as well. In the same vein, I mean, those companies do exactly what they're doing for a hell of a lot longer than some companies did. And that settlement wasn't even compares to what the drug companies did. So it's a way that, in such a way that we're actually, the companies do have to pay. And they settle. That's way beyond this town's governance. If anything, it's that we are able to receive a certain amount of funds, $32,000, half the price of a car. So yeah, I'll take the $32,000.
Vice Mayor?
I appreciate everything you said and the information. I absolutely agree with you, but I don't think us not taking part in this is going to make a hill of beans in the big picture. I don't think for a minute that I don't agree with everything you said, but I don't think it's going to make any difference to them. And if this could, we spoke about this, if even this small amount of money could make any kind of difference, like more Narcan in your cars, what have you, even the small amount of money helping to push back on what little issues we do have. But nonetheless, you don't know what's going to happen. Then I wouldn't stand in the way of saying that we'll take that money, but I appreciate everything you said.
Okay, I'll now entertain a motion for the passing of resolution number 2022-01.
So moved.
Second.
That is a motion by Commissioner Cos, a second by Commissioner Pugh. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 4-1. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 1K. Appointment of the mayor as the town commission liaison for potable water contract negotiations. Town manager, I'd like for you to advise us on this item, and then I'd like to also be able to have the floor and explain why I would like to do this.
Absolutely. As you know, I received a request from you to attend the negotiation sessions for the potable water contract with the city of Boynton Beach. In the past, such requests have been approved by a vote of the town commission. The most recent example was the appointment of Vice Mayor Magruder to serve as the commission representative to the Coastal Resilience Partnership when the town was working on the vulnerability assessment.
Okay. This came up just because I've been involved from the beginning with several meetings with Rapatellis and other things. And it does not need to be me, but I feel strongly that there needs to be a town commission liaison, not to handle the negotiations, but to be in the room during the negotiations, to just be that extra third eye, to listen, to hear, to take notes. Sometimes when you're yourself negotiating, you're not thinking at the 30,000 foot level, you're thinking about the next step point. Boynton is a very important neighbor of ours. They provide two of our major services, both water and obviously fire EMT, and potentially in the future our septic to sewer conversion also. So I would like to see whoever handles this, if it's someone on the town commission does handle it, that they keep in mind all three of these very large aspects. I think also there has been enough sideways things that have already come out of this water negotiation, and it hasn't even really begun, whether we own pipes or we don't own pipes, whether we're going to have to take over our own administrative piece of this. So that is why I'd volunteer, but I'd be happy if anybody else on this commission would want to be able to do this. Again, not as a negotiator, but as just a presence there to hear and to learn. What I don't want to have happen is 6 months from now, deal terms are brought to us and we've never had the chance to, in between, figure out what those deal terms are and, see if there's better deal terms or other things that we can negotiate. So, okay. I'll now open the floor for commissioner discussion. Public comment. Yes, that's what I meant to say. Public comment. Hearing none, I'll now open the floor to commission discussion.
I think it's the town manager's job, and if during the 6 months of negotiations, we're not getting staff updates or perhaps even a public commission update from the town manager, then we have a different problem. This is why Tracy gets the big bucks to do this. So I don't understand, and you can't be a liaison to the commissioners,
No.
except during the town public meetings. So I nothing against you, I just don't see the need for this. That's all.
Okay, Attorney Goodell, a quick question, and I hadn't thought about this before. Is there ever the opportunity during these negotiations for the commission to have any shade meetings, not unlike what we do during PBA negotiations?
No, unfortunately, the only shade meeting that, there's not one specifically for these types of negotiations. It would be more of a process of either a public update through the town manager or one-on-one conversations where we're at, or the issuance of a memo. Do not reply type of memos to the entire commission.
Okay, and are they still looking for a 30-year contract for this?
So can I just answer your questions? We've only had one session with them so far. Sessions have been stalled. As you know, the first session, they questioned who owned the pipe. So they stalled at that point so that the attorneys could do the necessary research. Now that that research has been pretty much concluded, we set up another session on the 17th, I think it was, of December, but that was canceled by the city of Boynton. So we're just waiting to set up another session.
Okay.
So what's the imperative that you become a liaison? That's, I mean, if there's so much going on. But see, the difference in your example that you read is that Magruder was on a task force, and that's a different, completely different thing. That's where everybody's getting together with an amalgam of ideas and coming together and seeing if they can come up with a plan. This particular case, this is a negotiation. And whether you're the mayor or commissioner, that's, to me, not our job. Our job is a body that makes decisions based upon the information we get. Now, if you're sitting in that negotiation, are you speaking at the negotiation? Is it a public negotiation? That's my question. Is it a public negotiation? Can anybody be there? Or is it behind closed doors?
Madam Mayor, if I may respond, I believe the intention is it's just a staff-to-staff negotiation process.
I did that, but that you actually said the right word, the staff. That's why we pay the staff. That's why the staff gets all that information. That's the town manager's job to go to those negotiations, find out what's going on, and then like you had said, we don't want to get blindsided, but we better not get blindsided, because that's the whole point of having our town manager. And every single meeting, she should be coming with us on after every single negotiation period, exactly what happened during that negotiation period. So we're not blindsided. Because if we do get blindsided, then it's time for a different town manager. Okay, so the thing about it is that there's no point. No, I'll take that back. There would be a point for you to go there, and if it was like a joint task force to figure what we're going to do with the Boynton water lines. However, this is not that case. This is literally a negotiation between two towns. Is the mayor of Boynton going to be there at the negotiation? No. Is any of the commissioners from Boynton going to be at the negotiation? No. So I don't think it's the purview or the position of Town of Ocean Ridge that we send our commissioners, whether it's any one of us, to that negotiation. I think it's the job of staff. That's my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Another question. At what point does Raftellus come into the negotiations and or sit at the table or go to the meetings?
They came to the first one. They'll be representing us throughout the process.
So they'll be present?
Yes.
Okay. I feel better about that. Okay.
They've committed to that.
Okay.
And when we have those negotiations, and you're coming back from a negotiation like you did after the first one, I mean, you can advise us in our individual staff meetings about the status of it. Like, I mean, unless we're getting to a point where there's some sort of decision that needs to be made or some sort of direction that we need to go to, that would then have to be discussed in open forum.
Right.
And at that point, there's no shade.
No.
You can't do that in the shade either.
I mean, at this point, I'm not going to throw myself on the sword for this one way or the other. It was a discussion point.
Listen, I think in any negotiations, the more years, it's better. But there's a point that this is staff. This is a point for staff.
Okay.
Okay, I just want to say that I have no problem with being a liaison. That's a lot different than staff input. The second set of ears, and I'm sure that's not stepping on Tracy's toes, or you would have known that before you even brought this up. If that's something you wanted to pursue, I would absolutely, support that.
I don't think at this point it would be necessary.
No. Okay, can I entertain a motion, please?
A motion.
Do I need one? Do I need one?
If the motion's not made, it just.
Do I need a motion?
You don't need a motion, because if no motion is made or passed, nothing happens until action is taken.
All right. Okay, let's move on to regular agenda item number 2. Second reading of ordinance 2022-01. Clerk Armstrong, please read the ordinance by title into the record only.
Ordinance number 2022-01, an ordinance of the Town of Ocean Ridge, Florida, amending Chapter 16 of the Town Code of Ordinances, Code Enforcement by renaming the chapter to Community Standards, adopting amendments to the Town Community Standard Procedures, and adopting an alternate Community Standard Citation Procedure, and making necessary amendments, providing for codification, repeal, completing ordinances, severability, and an effective date.
Okay, thank you. Town Manager Stevens, will you please advise us on this item?
Certainly, as you know, this passed on first reading and we're now on second reading. The Town Commission directed staff to enhance the code enforcement procedures of the town due to several limitations that were found through enforcement of recent cases. The town attorney, police chief, building official, and myself looked at the issues and we recommended the code enforcement section of the town code be changed to community standards to align the name with the town's desire to have all residents, guests, and visitors voluntarily comply with all the requirements of the town's code. The committee also recommended that some of the enforcement procedures be amended in order to make the procedures more efficient when violations are not voluntarily complied with. This includes the creation of a community standard alternative civil citation process to more effectively and efficiently address violations of town code.
Thank you. I'll now open the floor for public comment. Seeing none, I'll now close public comment and open the floor for commission discussion.
Nothing to discuss.
Nothing
The
you're gonna add,
only
right?
issues that I had with
I'd
it
like
had
to
to do
move
with
that we-
Florida statute.
I say I'd like to move that we adopt ordinance number
There we go.
2022-01 on second reading.
Okay, that is a motion by Commissioner Pugh, a second by Vice Mayor Hurlbert. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to agenda item number 3, resolution number 2022-02. Clerk Armstrong, will you please read the resolution by title into the record?
Resolution number 2022-02, a resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Ocean Ridge, Florida, amending the adopted schedule of fees for various services and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Town Manager Stevens, will you please advise us on this item?
Absolutely. So this resolution is needed in accordance with the ordinance that you just passed. The town's fee schedule has been amended to add a section for community standard citations as a supplement to the ordinance. Proposed revisions are attached for your review as Appendix A with the amendments highlighted in yellow. Carla, can you bring that up for the public so that they can see the additions? Instead of me reading those out. Everything is highlighted in yellow there.
Okay, thank you. I'll now open the floor for public comment. Seeing none, I'll close public comment and open the floor for commission discussion.
It makes sense, just so everyone knows, it's kind of an escalation. And what you get first offense, then a second, it's more money, a third, it's more money. And it also ups a couple of the fees. So it's pretty straightforward and needed.
I have one thing that I would like to see if there's an interest from the fellow commissioners on the construction site work hours, third and more offenses. So we're going, this is when construction sites have work going on after the hours that they're committed to. Basically, the first offense is really a warning. You're getting a warning. Then the first written offense would be $50. Second offense would be $100. And the third offense and after that is $250. I personally think that if a construction management company or a general contractor, whoever's on the construction site, has 3 offenses of that, basically 4 offenses at that point of that nature, then blatant disregard of that of the work hours and of our community standards that we have in this town, and they should be hit with our maximum fine, which would be $500. So I would increase the third offense to 500. Possibly leave the other offenses where they are. But if it doesn't sink in, by the second time or third time that you've been warned, so it needs to hit your pocketbook.
Giovanni, simultaneous with this, it's a stop work order. No, if they're working after hours?
So not necessarily. We have those, these are just additional tools. So if it is that severe, we could also do a stop work order. But at the same time, this is also parallel being submitted to the magistrate. So, eventually they will get by the magistrate.
But I'm confused. If I'm working at 1:30 on Saturday, and you guys come over, you're gonna just slap me with a $50 fine and I just keep working?
No,
It's nuts.
you leave
Right.
Yeah.
So you do shut down, don't work on that day.
that day.
Yeah.
So if you get caught again, then that's all.
And then after the third strike, then it goes to the magistrate into the heavy fines that you're talking.
Right.
Which takes,
This one, yeah, third offense and more.
So actually, this, just to be clear, this system is in addition to the other systems that we had.
Right.
We still also have the option of doing a stop work. And we also have the option of shutting down a job site, if it is that poorly maintained. So there are.
so I think you were trying to get at, like, if you could pay $250 a day to keep working, you do. But that's not the case.
Yeah, but if it takes 2 hours or 3 hours for somebody to show up, and if I come at 7 o'clock in the morning, by the time that staff gets here, it's 8 o'clock, they wouldn't even know that they started at 7. So it would be up to the police department.
Yeah.
And hopefully a neighbor calls it in.
This got up to the police department now, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, usually police department's doing that for years.
Yeah.
I just think that 250 after the third offense, it's pretty much, you need to feel it. That's what I'm saying.
I would,
250,
well, using that, and I don't disagree with you, then we should probably standardize it that after a third offense on any of these, you get the maximum that we can do.
Madam Mayor, if I may clarify as well, like a building official said, this is in addition to our other processes, including regular code enforcement, where you do have to go before the magistrate for your first hearing. If someone were to receive a citation for a first offense, for their second offense, we could take them through a formal process of code enforcement as a repeat violator, and it would be $500 per day until they're in compliance. So this is really a tool to allow us to hit the low-hanging fruit. Once we start getting up to your second and third offense, we're going to be looking at our other processes to see how we can better address and try to bring the person in compliance. But the fine amount is told within your purview.
Mrs. Kolb, just so you know, you'll be delighted to know that dogs on the beach is one of the violations that could be now, dogs on the beach is one of the violations that now could be under this citation.
If I could just say one thing,
Sure.
please. I apologize, I can't pronounce your name, but Commissioner Martin is absolutely correct when he's saying you have to hit them with their pocketbooks. When we keep giving people just a notice and a warning or a $50, they'll pay the $50, they'll pay the $200 to keep doing it. But until we start really hitting them in their pocketbook, they're going to continue. And since we don't have much of revenue coming in other than our taxes, it doesn't mean anything to us except revenue. So there's no downside to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could we, all right, because I understand exactly where you're going, and I also see that these are combined issues here. The magistrate, the fines and what have you. Is it your purview that says, Durrani, when you see this is, look, you see this is the third time you've had to come out on Saturday at 11 o'clock? Is it within, or could we attach a stop work order so they know after, say, the second offense, if this happens again, not only does your fine go up, but we're going to stop it? Can we tie that together?
Yes, absolutely, Vice Mayor. Again, this is just one
Right.
of, some other tools that we have in place, but again, it's of your pleasure to decide what the level of fees are. But us, our idea of doing this is to standardize the process. It was a difficult debate. I mean, to decide how much to charge,
What the number is.
how much it is, is it too high, is it too low? And different code officers, myself, chief, and we also have another full-time officer that's, spending a lot of energy on this also. So, all the minds having to come together along with Christie So, again, it's up to the pleasure of the commission to make that decision, but this is just one of many tools. And,
Why don't we do this?
to make that
The
decision.
idea of the-
And that's what this process is for, the public and yourselves to understand what we are presenting and to make that final
Because
decision.
that would be certainly hitting them in the pocket when
Or
when they know they're
exactly.
gonna be closed down.
Yeah.
That's more than the $500 fine, knowing
Why
they're
don't
gonna.
why don't we do this? Why don't we say, you know what, let's, the way that it is written right now, since staff has given this a lot of thought, leave it the way it is. If staff sees that there is an ongoing problem with that, and that might be, then bring it back towards the commission for an increase in fines. We can discuss
And
it then.
also,
Well, can we?
knowing
we
that you can do your second or third when somebody's on their second thing. You can let them know that that stop work order is coming.
Well, can we ask the chief, how massive of a problem is this?
So I was actually looking at the numbers as we were having the conversation, and for last month, we had 17 violations that were documented in our CAD system, meaning that we went out to at least 17 incidents involving work when not permitted.
Now, when was was there a preponderance of days that was on?
It doesn't detail that data, but it would have had to have been either after hours on a weekday or likely on Sunday or afternoon on Saturday. But we don't see consistently the same hours being violated. It's typically kind of all over the place, whether it be Saturday after, the designated end time, or whether it be on a Monday after 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. Depending.
And is it on job sites, or is it from lawn companies or other companies doing that type of work?
It could be any of the above.
See, so you'd have to almost differentiate between what's going on to really get to the heart of who's really causing the biggest problem.
Correct.
So can you do that?
Well, definitively, the way our system has traditionally tracked the data, absolutely not. How we're starting to track the data with the uniform process that we're implementing through our new records management system, we will be able to define not just the day, the week, the date and the time, but also specifically the offense and who the offender is, so that we can start to identify, is it the same building company always, or is it the same contractor always? So we can start to kind of drill down, like Christy said, do we need to bring the general contractor before code enforcement? Or do we need to deal with the homeowner who may not know that their contractor is violating the rules of the town where they're now building a home? So it would help us. That's one of the whole reasons why we're going down this path of uniformity and trying to document the data much more efficiently than it was being done previously.
Commissioner Vishalak, I'd agree with you. That's, staff has put a lot of time and effort into this. I'm delighted that our software will start to give us better data to see repeat offense and to maybe then make a shift or a change if we need to. My only comment, and I made this at staff, and the reason I'm making it publicly is because Mr. Guy was not there. I would like to make sure that when a permit is issued, whether it is to a homeowner or to a developer or a contractor, that a list of these fees is attached so they know. I will give myself as an example. I just did a master bathroom remodel, and that sometimes I had 3 to 4 different workers there working. I knew the rules, but if I didn't know the rules, how would I know a dumpster needed to be covered? How would I know necessarily what was going on as a private homeowner? We're not talking about these huge, 7,000 square foot homes where they sign a construction manual and they do all these other things. So I would just like to make sure that we give our residents enough information on the front end, and hopefully then they will comply rather than try to sit on the back end and give them, have to give them warnings and have to give them problems. So I know that the process and the paperwork for permitting is already pretty arduous, but it might be something that could be almost a checklist type thing that is done, just so, residents know whether their job is small or big. When they get a permit, they know what the rules are. I think right now, those rules aren't given, and we set ourselves up and our residents up sometimes for potential problems down the
You're
road.
talking about a resident that does his own work?
No.
Well, when they hire a contractor, the contractor comes to town hall and does get the manual.
Not on only certain size jobs.
Really?
No,
You get
no,
it
no,
back.
not all.
Everybody now.
Everyone on every side job.
But is the fee schedule attached to
Not
this?
the fee schedule, and we will take that under advisement.
Right,
That is
okay.
something that yeah, easy fix for us. They simply just add it to the contract as an addendum. So they also sign for that. So that's it.
Okay, perfect. I'm glad it's easy. Okay. Something easy.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2022-02, amending the town fee schedule as it is currently.
Second.
Okay, that is a motion by Commissioner Vishalak, a second by Commissioner Calls. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to agenda item number 4, the reading of ordinance number 2022-02. First reading, Clerk Armstrong, please read the ordinance by title into the record.
Ordinance number 2022-02, an ordinance of the Town of Ocean Ridge, Florida, amending its Code of Ordinances, Land Development Code, Chapter 63, General and Administrative Provisions, Article 7, Non-Conforming and Grandfather Uses, Section 63-117, Grandfather Uses, Lots and Structures, to clarify and update the administrative variance procedure for grandfather structures and for other purposes, providing for codification, repeal of conflicting ordinances, and repealing an effective date.
Thank you. Town Manager Stevens, will you please advise us on this item?
I'm actually going to defer this one to the town clerk and also our vice chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission. I was not at attendance at the last Planning and Zoning Commission meeting where this was discussed, as I was out for a couple of weeks with COVID. So I'll defer to them.
Carla, could you put up that illustration that they did?
That's the important one.
Right.
I think Christie is actually the best one to explain the changes because there's things out and things in.
Yeah.
But I think it accomplishes what we discussed at the workshop. And I'd like to punt to Christie at this point. And that's the right, that one or the one that's the same later where it's the ad. It's a few pages later, but that's the illustration.
So if you recall, this issue came up at the first joint meeting between the town commission and the town planning commission. And this is actually, for the most part, currently codified in the town's code. And what it's dealing with is grandfathered structures. Now, grandfather also is another term for saying a legal non-conforming structure, meaning that the structure was built at a time when the regulations aren't what the regulations are currently, and there's something about that structure that currently isn't conforming with our code. So it's considered a legal non-conforming because it was properly permitted at the time it was built, but now it's no longer conforming. We also call that grandfathered in. So.
And is that date certain with this November 25th, 1976?
It's case specific. So it depends on when the structure was built, what existed at that time in our code versus how it sits now. So currently codified in the code, when we were discussing this at the joint meeting, staff and I noticed that there was some language that seemed out of place. So one of the purposes of this is really just an administrative cleanup, to clean up and organize this section better, because it's really specific in that it's addressing grandfather structures that want to encroach further in some area where it's non-conforming. And the example on the screen is encroaching further into a setback. So walking through this in tonight's agenda, the first big section that's taken out is taken out and then simply put back in because it was sort of stuck in a weird situation there. So the rest of it is minor cleanup here and there. In the section, the next section that's taken out is also put back in. What we did change and try to really clarify is the way this would work is if someone's in a situation where they have a grandfathered structure and they want to further encroach, say, into a setback, they would apply to the administrative official, which is the town manager or designee, for administrative variance. And administrative meaning it doesn't become before the planning commission, it doesn't come before the town commission. Staff can handle it completely administratively. As long as they comply with this section, there's a limitation on a 5% total encroachment. There's also a limitation on how far you can actually go into a side setback. But assuming that the application meets all the requirements of the code, it can be granted administratively. There is a notice process that goes out for 300 feet of neighboring properties. They have an opportunity to comment and object. Then the administrative official will review it. If the administrative official finds it complies, they can grant it. If they're not comfortable granting it, they can push it forward to the Board of Adjustment for a fee to be paid, for the Board of Adjustment to review it consistent with this code provision.
And where does the 5% appear within the ordinance?
I believe if you look at the section, make sure I give you kind of is a little confusing. I'm sorry, it's 6317D. I believe it's subsection 2, administrative variance criteria. And that first paragraph A, it talks about cumulative total area of no more than 5% of the property's total setback area. So there's a calculation of math involved in this. But if you go down further in that provision, it does say that no structure shall be permitted to encroach within 10 feet of any side property line. So what that means is this still won't let you get closer than 10 feet to your side property line. But this is a way that administratively staff can assist property owners with non-conforming structures to allow further encroachment.
So is it only side encroachments or is it front and back also?
It's actually all encroachments. This example is specific to setbacks, but depending on what it is non-conforming, it could potentially be height. It could potentially be other things. It's just on a very case-by-case basis. And that 5% calculation goes into all that consideration. So really, overall, what you're looking at is for a non-conforming structure, allowing up to an additional 5% sort of encroachment of an applicable existing code provision that they're already non-conforming with.
On top of the percentage it's already encroached.
Well, they do an overall total calculation, and depending how much they are currently encroached, they may be allowed to encroach further.
And would this encroachment be only one-off, or could they apply for front, back, side, and height encroachment all at the same time?
That sounds like a calculus equation that's not going to happen to me. But I think you could apply for multiple things, but then you'd have to figure out these 5% percentages each, look at what it's not conforming for, figure out that percentage, and then look, are they already at 5% or more, and figure out.
But even with the original structure that we broke.
Right,
That's I think the same question as you.
Yeah.
Is it 5% of encroachment in the setbacks, or is it the addition can be up to 5% more encroachment?
So it calculates the cumulative, so it looks at the encroachment already there and how much more they can have. So I know this because I see Manny do the calculations all the time, even though I have him do it. So he'll look what's already there existing and take that and see how much of encroachment it can do based on the 5%.
Okay, so for instance, this guy is not going to be allowed 5% on the black.
No, because he may be already 3% encroaching.
Right.
Yes.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It just
Exactly.
depends, yeah.
Okay.
Good luck.
That was a very good explanation. And I do not do calculus, so. Okay, I'd like to.
Ordinances that you do have to read through several times.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Over and over to figure it out, but yes. So it is, a lot of it is just a cleanup, but it does give the administrative official the option to forward it on now to the Board of Adjustment if say there's a bunch of objections to the request.
Okay, next to now open the floor to public comment. Do you even know what we're talking about?
Rick does.
Yep, Rick does.
Actually, this situation, I'm Mike Lee, Ramirez at 607 North Ocean. This situation you're talking about is my house, pretty much. We're trying to get a variance for gaining 5 feet on the north side of my, on an addition we want to add to our house, which is basically going to be a garage addition. And it's super confusing. I mean, you can see what you're trying to ascertain from what the town attorney said and the confusion part of it. It should not be this difficult for somebody trying to understand, can they add, 5 feet to their house, or are they within the 5% rule, and all these hoops and hurdles somebody has to go through is really ridiculous. So I understand what you are doing, and I appreciate everything that everybody does, but from just a homeowner trying to get something done for their home, this has been an ongoing process for over a year now for me, just to try to figure out this whole situation. I'm just trying to convert a garage into living space and then add another 1-car garage. But if I'm not within that, if I'm outside the 5% rule, then I have to go through another hearing that you all were talking about. But it doesn't make sense for me to have to go through all this trouble and time and expense just to add 5 feet to a new garage to make it look aesthetically correct. So I know you're not looking at my diagram or anything about my house, but it was actually brought up at one of the previous meetings, and it really just doesn't make any sense. So I'm hoping there can be some clarity when we're all done today, so I can move forward and other people can with their projects. The last point, the application process really doesn't separate if somebody's doing a small addition, a large addition, a new house. What I need to do, if I want to be my own GC, even though I'm not in my situation, there's no way in the world that anybody can figure out what is needed. The application process is too cumbersome. It's just not clear. So I'm constantly calling Carla or Lisa and getting clarification, and they keep emailing me back, it's in the application. Well, I know it's in the application in all fairness, but it's not clear. So I'm hoping there can be some cleanup at some point with the application process to make it easier for people that want to do work to their home and make it aesthetically correct.
Okay.
So thank you.
Thank you very much. I think the passing of the ordinance is a step in the direction that you're trying to take. It's trying to give some clarity and some actual quantification, and also stop it and give a resident or a developer the opportunity not to have to go in front of the Board of Adjustments as the first goal, which is, I think what we're all trying to do is to try to give some of that discretion back to staff and to the benefit of the residents. So I hope we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater with this, but I think that that's what the whole reason for this ordinance is trying to do. But staff has heard you very clearly about the application process, and we are always open to improvements. So if you have very specific things, please make sure that you get in touch with Durrani or with Carla. They would be happy to help. So, okay, I'd like to now open it to commission discussion.
So I had, and this is now over 2 years ago, sat with Mark, the chair of planning and zoning, about pretty much exactly that subject. And he's, as an architect, he's approaching this whole thing from the architectural point of view. So you have a like this structure here, you have an existing structure that has a setback that's encroaching into the side as we have it today. You want to build that addition, and this is what I have an issue with that particular graph, but, and I'll get to that in a second, but what you see there, that black square, if this is your addition and you're looking at the left-hand side, everybody's left-hand side, so from the left-hand side, say this would be the street side, what you would be looking at is you would be looking at an addition that is offset by 5 foot. This thing was built originally on a 10-foot setback, now it's a 15-foot setback, so it would be offset by 5 feet. You have this appendix that is basically added onto a structure in order to comply with that 5-foot setback. And he was very specific about that, and I have to wholeheartedly agree with him that that is not what it should be. It should be a simple straight line. And yes, that line would be continuing in the setback. So this is what this ordinance is basically about. My objection with that particular diagram is that, and I raised that during staff meetings too, is you have a setback encroachment, an existing setback encroachment here towards the bottom of it in that shaded area. That's where the structure is encroaching, and the way that this diagram right now sits is then the addition is being built, but it's not being built where the encroachment is. It's actually being built into a setback that is completely unrelated to the actual encroachment that exists at this moment.
But would the owner or the contractor not have that discretion to make that call themselves? Maybe they wanted to have the encroachment, so you have a parallel frontage and they don't go as far in the encroachment on the side setback. I mean, that is the choice of the resident.
Yeah, and that might be the choice of the resident. If they want to build something that is offset, they can certainly build it offset, if that's the architectural style that they want to create. However, here's my problem with it. Why should the resident then be allowed to encroach into a completely different setback? My structure is built after 1976. So my structure is not grandfathered. I do not have the ability to say, well, you know what, I'm gonna encroach into some setback too, because my structure is not grandfathered. This encroachment that you have here is an encroachment into a setback that hasn't even touched. So if the homeowner decides that they want to build an addition somewhere, they should not be allowed to encroach into a setback that has not been encroached in. However, if they wanted to build a structure in a way that conforms with architectural style, more to their liking, which would make more sense in the case of Mr. Lieberman, who has a garage that would be much, from common sense, would be much better served as if that garage would be along that same setback line, along that encroached structure. That should be something that should be allowed. But to go into a completely different setback, to me, makes no sense.
I had not considered that.
I can see that because I know that having dealt with these non-conforming, that's a pain right there, right? That's just a pain right there because those rules are no longer intact. And sometimes when you need to put something in and you get your extra little room, because otherwise if you're sticking with the new conforming, there's no room to put your addition. So you look for an encroachment. And sometimes the encroachment might not be the easiest one. It's going to work for not just your style, but could be the neighbor as well. So I can see why they would encroach there versus come back and make that flat mass all the way across the first encroachment. So they're going to have to be case by case because each place is going to be different and have different issues and needs. So as long as we can continue to be individual about it. But I mean, these grandfathered and non-conforming structures are very difficult to put right in that line.
Should somebody be allowed to encroach into a different setback just because he has a grandfathered structure versus the person that does not have a grandfathered structure cannot encroach into?
Well, that's usually what the deal comes out to, is the fact that you're getting this special dispensation because you have the non-conforming, and it happened before we have the new law. So that's usually where it comes from.
If you live in a structure that conforms, can't you go to the Board of Adjustments? So.
Yeah.
Show a hardship, right?
So, and the other thing is I hate to channel Mark Marsh, but I'm sure Rick Carey agrees, I hope. Architecturally, you don't want to limit the ability of the homeowner and the designer. If that was one long flat wall, I think Susan called it a flat mass.
Yeah.
It would be a flat mass. This at least has the ability to have a little more architectural.
And you see the shadow of the existing structure, which doesn't have all flat mass.
I hear you loud and clear, Commissioner Bischoff, and it's an interesting thing. Let me ask the question just for clarification again. You can come for an administrative, I don't want to call it variance, an administrative relief side, front, back, doesn't make any difference, height, all at the same time, but it all must, at least on the floor area ratio, or during calculations, all must still abide within that 5%, which is probably already reduced from 5% to something else because they're already encroaching. Is that correct?
That's correct. And if you go back, if I could draw your attention back to that subsection 2 administrative variance criteria, where it says, the administrative official may grant an administrative variance to the yard setback requirements for the alteration, extension, enlargement, expansion of a grandfather structure, such that the total area occupied to be occupied by all existing proposed structures and all existing accessory structures shall not encroach into the required yard setback by a cumulative total area of more than 5% of the property's total setback area. Then it says the administrative official may also grant administrative variance from the cumulative totals of each of the other land development dimensional regulations not to exceed 5% of the current regulations. So it includes other, if there's a dimensional requirement, like a height requirement, that allows them to then, build into those existing requirements not to exceed that 5% cumulative total.
Okay.
I have a question, so everyone's gonna get annoyed at me. If you, let's say on that sketch we got up there, right? You decide that you want to remove some of the non-conforming to make the black larger. Can you do that?
I don't know.
You know what I'm saying, Christie? You remove some of the front encroachment because you want to make the black a larger encroachment.
I mean, that's kind of an alteration to a grandfather structure. And that would,
I see what you're going, you're looking at the 5% if you took it away from where.
So now you have 7%.
Yeah, but it would not, I don't think it would be covered under this ordinance.
I don't
I
know.
don't think so either.
So I think that would be a difficult decision because the question I would have is, well, are you now making it conforming?
Right.
And then encroaching into
Yeah,
a new
that's
area?
exactly
Right, and then just looking for a variance.
I would
Exactly.
think, right, you would have to go to the board of adjustment for something.
Right.
I don't know.
It's an argument, it's an argument.
I can understand.
I know the intent, but it doesn't mean that somebody won't come up with something that's like,
Right.
oh, really? The intent here is to make a small project that needs to go logically a foot or two over the line to improve this older house and not make them go through craziness in the Board of Adjustment to do that, to just kind of say, yeah, that makes sense and move on. I think staff will be conservative on this. If there's any doubt, they're going to kick it up to the Board of Adjustment. They don't want to be hauled in before you and say, why did you allow this?
Right, have the neighbors on it and all.
Yes, Mr. Guy.
Yes, I'd like to just give an example that we had where we wish we had an ordinance like this. We had a homeowner who had a property, and it was like a straight line. There was a jog. It went in like 5 feet, came back out, came back down. Everything on the south end of the property encroached like 2 feet in. What he wanted to do was to add a bathroom because his mother-in-law was coming to live with him. He did not have a bathroom on his ground floor. And it was a simple thing. It was just connecting a line for a little natural that was in the existing structure. And when it was finished, and when it actually was, it looked like a complete finished building. But we did not have the authority to make that decision to allow an additional 2 feet by 5 foot long to go back into the setback. Homeowner went to Board of Adjustment and went through the cumbersome process and went through it, but it could have been easier. And this ordinance would allow staff the flexibility to do that. And yes, if we end up with a calculus equation, we are going to send it to Board of Adjustment. They're not going to take you all of that. But if it's simple and straightforward, it's this ordinance gives us.
That's a good example because it happened within the past year and we all, I think,
The
remember
one
what
thing
that
that gave me a little pause, and I thought about it when we reviewed it in planning and zoning that Christie brought up, is the potential adding to height by 5%. And I really don't think that's the intent here, and I certainly would hope that if there was additional height, that it would go to the Board of Adjustment. Because we have pretty generous height right now.
Is that something, if the commission agrees and has consensus, that could be changed? I mean, is this the first reading or second reading? First reading.
How much would that be? 5% of
36.
36, that's.
So it'd be foot under 2 feet.
That's not our intention. Our intention is land sprawl.
Yeah,
Right,
lands.
Maybe-
It didn't come up in the planning and zoning discussion, but Christie
never would've
mentioned
thought
it tonight.
Right, but that's a good
But,
consideration.
you know,
Yeah, but
like you
you know,
said,
an
once you
extra
throw
2
that
feet
idea
on
out,
36
there's
feet's a lot.
Yeah, if they thought about it, someone else will too.
So can we just pass this on the first reading with the consideration that you're gonna add in that this applies, doesn't apply to heights?
Yes, absolutely. I know that it's mentioned in 2 places, what I just read, and there's another mention of the other encroachments. And I think the intent was, if you have a non-conforming structure, is to give you options of how you could build in different ways to give you a little bit more flexibility of how you could enhance the structure. So height is one of those considerations, but if the desire is to limit, to take that out, we can make sure that that's done.
I think it's
I
good.
think our height ordinance should be our height ordinance.
Yes,
I'm with you.
the sky's not a setback.
Wow.
Okay,
Okay,
I'll
first
now entertain a motion to pass the reading of ordinance 2022-02 with further amendments to and modifications to the second reading.
So moved.
Second.
That is a motion by Vice Mayor Hurlbert, a second by Commissioner Vishalak. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to staff and committee reports. Planning and Zoning Commission, Vice Chair Carey, will you please present the Planning and Zoning report?
Thank you. You have before you our report from the last meeting. We had the primary discussion that we had was around this and the matter that we just discussed, and the other was an approval of a project. So I think that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Thank you. Agenda item number 6, Town Manager Stevens, will you please present your report?
Certainly, thank you, Mayor. In the month of December, we celebrated the employee anniversary of our building clerk, Lisa Burns, who has served the town for the past 19 years. Police Sergeant Rick Stang, who has served the town for 8 years. Police Officer Mario Galucio, who has served the town for 17 years. Dispatcher Zoe Arnold, who has served the town for 5 years. We thank them for their service and dedication to the town of Ocean Ridge. The dates of the July and September Town Commission meetings will need to be adjusted due to holidays. The July Town Commission meeting will be held on Tuesday, July 5th, and the September meeting will be held on Tuesday, September 6th. We received our annual Truth and Millage certification by the Department of Revenue. This certifies that the town of Ocean Ridge followed all the rules and regulations for our budget process for FY22. On behalf of the commission and residents of Ocean Ridge, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Garden Club for donating the beautiful poinsettias that have been placed around Town Hall to be enjoyed by all, and for decorating Town Hall for the holidays. It is very much appreciated. The town hosted an outdoor Light the Lights holiday event this year, which was a great success. I want to thank town staff, town commissioners, and Garden Club members who volunteered their time for this event. The town also hosted its 2nd annual Cruising Santa event, where town commissioners and staff cruised the town with Santa and Mrs. Claus on golf carts and handed out holiday candy and dog treats to our residents and furry friends. We all had a blast spreading holiday cheer to our friends and neighbors. We want to thank those who volunteered their time for this event or donated their golf carts. Your generosity is very much appreciated, and I wish you all a joyous and healthy new year.
Thank you. One question I just wanted to quiz the and reach consensus from the commission. Is Tuesday, July 5th and Tuesday, September 6th, both of them being on the back end of a long weekend, conducive for everybody, and everybody's okay with it?
I'm glad you brought that up because I was just gonna bring up the January meeting in 2023. Because I don't like this holiday weekends. And in next January, New Year's Day is on the Sunday.
Mhm.
And the Tuesday is the 2nd.
Mhm.
So it's exactly what you're thinking. I don't like it.
So just let me, the reason why we do the Tuesday in the July and September is because of our budget process. So we have to keep that in line with the trim process. So we've done that historically for the July and September meetings. Instead of having it the next week, we always hold it in the same week because of the trim process that we have to follow and the timelines.
So we would be in violation of the trim process?
We would have to finagle it in such a way where we'd have to figure it out, but we have to do it
We
within the
cannot have a,
process.
we cannot have a budget meeting back to back with a,
That's long.
yeah, the early ones, the July ones.
Especially the September one where you have your public hearings.
We tried that once. Ate a lot of pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Have we always done it this way historically?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because actually, if I had had my druthers, we would not be sitting here tonight. I think it was.
Well, also, it's difficult for the staff.
Yeah.
Because
You're
we're all
coming off
getting
of
our
a long
staff
holiday?
meetings, it's the holidays.
Yeah.
So maybe you can make a note about January
Absolutely.
2023.
Yeah.
And just push it back a week or forward a week.
Yeah, the January one won't matter. It's the
Mhm.
July and September ones.
When the
that need
budget
the
is
budget.
approved.
Okay, sorry to throw that curveball at you,
No
but it was one
problem.
of those things that I looked on my calendar. All right, town attorney, Godot, do you have anything to report?
I do not have a report.
All right. Chief Jones, will you please present your police report?
Yes, I would first like to thank everyone who participated in the toy drive. It was a great success. You'll see some photos in the newsletter this month, which shows the number of gifts that were collected. It is truly a partnership between the community and the police department. I know that there are many residents here who dedicate a lot of time, effort, and toys to make that successful. And Deborah does a great job at coordinating with the folks at the Guardian Ad Litem program to make sure that all of the underprivileged children have toys to open on Christmas. So Deborah, thank you as well. Additionally, she doesn't like to share this, but she actually took kids shopping this year as she did last year as well. She volunteers to do that on her own time to make sure that each one of those children have someone that is a positive role model to be with them during those shopping opportunities. So again, thank you for that. The report is attached to your packet. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. I will tell you that I continue to monitor the timing associated with the fire rescue reports. I reached out to fire rescue to see if potentially in the future we can get some clarification for those type of responses that exceed, say, 8 minutes, so that we know why we're exceeding 8 minutes. There may be logical explanations from time to time where there's necessity to have that time frame extended from 8 minutes to 10 or 11, but we want to know why so that we can make sure that it's reasonable. So I'm waiting to hear back from them on that. As far as all of our other data and statistics, the numbers of activity from the officers is considerably up in our report, as you'll notice. There's been an increase in citations and activity associated with traffic enforcement. And a lot of that is driven based on crime trends that we see, so we can try to show presence in the neighborhoods and try to prevent criminal activity from happening in the first place. With that being said, I will share with you that we did have an increase in crime over a specific period of time, which was 2 vehicles that were stolen. There was some discussion about it at our last commission meeting. Additionally, over the New Year's Eve weekend, we had boats that were burglarized on the south end of town, all of which were boats that were in the water and attached to docks that were burglarized by someone on a Sea-Doo. So we are investigating that. We do have video that we're looking at, so I don't want to disclose too much data. But between Briny Breezes and the town of Ocean Ridge, In a very short period of time, approximately 18 boats were entered. Some had things stolen from them and others did not. So I just want to share that with you and ask that if you have a boat, do your best to make sure that what you can do to secure your property is done, obviously. And then obviously if you have cameras or any surveillance footage during the holiday weekend that is suspicious to you or that may have captured any of that, if you'll please let us know, we would be more than happy to review that and see if it's beneficial to us for our investigation. And then last and probably interesting more than anything else to me is our opportunity to meet with all of you on Wednesday of this week for a meet and greet. We invite you out to have pizza with us and talk about some of the crime trends and what we're going to be doing differently in this year to try to combat some of that and to also offer some additional opportunities for crime prevention efforts in the town. And that's it.
Thank you, Chief. And hopefully it's just modesty stopping you from saying, but I am very proud that the town of Ocean Ridge is going to continue with Briny Breezes as their contract marshal for the next 3 years. Very kind words were said at the last Briny Breezes commission meeting, and it was never a question for them. It was a unanimous vote to go ahead and exercise the contract extension for the next 3 years. So I think that says a great deal about how your officers interact with that community and how well you're liked. So I just want to personally thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Agenda item number 9, the town engineer's report was included in the meeting package. Are there any questions or comments from the commissioners? Seeing none, agenda item number 10, building official Guy, will you please present your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Commissioners. Please accept the report as read in the packet. If you have any questions, you can. Thank you.
Questions? No comments? All right. Moving on to town commissioner comments. Agenda item number 11, traffic calming on Old Ocean Boulevard by Vice Mayor Hurlbert. Will you please advise us on this item?
Okay, I'm bringing this up, and yes, I was here at the meeting, what, 5 years ago, Jeffrey, where
6.
where we had the whole discussion and we had a full house there and we were proactively saying, let's look forward and what have you. And we didn't get too far, but I think it's a new time and a new day. And I'd like to see the town start considering ways and looking ahead for Old, can't drink about A1A, but Old Ocean is becoming very crowded. I'm seeing a lot of speeding, running the red light, the stop signs there. Plus, it's really getting packed. So between the walkers, the bikers, the dogs, the skaters, the skateboard guys, and the cars, I'm just afraid it's an accident waiting to happen. So when I was, I'm thinking in terms of, and I would like to almost have everybody start, anybody else who thinks that there could be an issue coming forward, is to start thinking about traffic calming devices we could use. And there are other things besides what they call sleeping policemen and the expensive speed bumps. When I was recently in Tallahassee, and I put in a call to Lisa, we're going to talk. And when I was recently in Tallahassee, they had traffic calming flat stripes on the road, but they had some kind of gravel or what have you in them that you automatically did slow down, but you didn't go boom, boom over, which might make some of the traffic that comes by, doesn't need to come by necessarily down that road, would go elsewhere. Such as the bike path, not just bikers. The bike path, individual bikers can do this. They don't have a problem with that. Also, I'm pretty sure that I noticed over the whole pandemic isolation issue, when it really took on a big crowd out there, that I'm guessing that we probably have it on some websites out there where people next door or what have you saying, come to Old Ocean because it's a place to walk across and go to the beach. Because I hear that conversation as I walk it almost twice a day, and I hear that conversation about almost like, did you know this was here? Come on down. So, and the mayor has mentioned that as we know, there's 2 big projects going up in Boynton right across the bridge, and most likely those projects, what are they, 300, 400-ish apartments each way, the times 2 with 2 people and the cars. And I think we'll be seeing an increase in Boynton coming over to utilize the roads and the beaches and what have you. So anything we can do to make a safer environment. So I'm just looking for people to start thinking, forward thinking here on maybe some options we can use. I know we discussed, Jeff, when you brought this up, there were all sorts of big picture items that didn't go over well. So maybe there's some other things that we can all be a little more creative about. Maybe everybody, we could put it out and people could send their ideas and their thoughts and we could put it together. I spoke with the chief about the speeding, which seems to be, most of the speeding is mostly locals, because the people that are not local are the ones dilly-dallying, la, 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 la. But it's the locals that are speeding and many of the workers, because I see the trucks and the vans at that 4:30 time flying out because they be done. So I'm basically really looking for suggestions and putting it out there for ways that we might be proactive in calming that area before we do have an issue. So, there's my speech.
I'd like to open it up for commission discussion.
Any input?
I'll send you to Simmons and White. The town paid $5,000 in 2007
Right.
for a study, and I'll send it to you. And so you can read everything they suggested.
Okay. I mean,
that might give you some ideas.
Well,
But this has been going on since Betty Bingham suggested in 2003. So it's just, it's the only street of its kind in all of Palm Beach County, basically. So what happens is that it's very hard to please everybody on exactly what to do to create a sense of more safety on the road. We tried one way, we thought about planters, we thought about three sides. I mean, so if anybody can come up with some other different idea, that'd be great.
That's what I'm thinking.
But it always seems to happen at the same exact time, every time. It's usually, believe it or not, we discussed this in 2016 in January.
Christmas.
So here we are,
When it becomes
6
so
years
crowded.
later, and we're discussing it again in January because there's so many more people. However, having said that, we do have issue that we really need to think about. I think more, it's not just the road, it's also the beaches. Because we're going to have, if you think about it, there's 328 units going in across in Woolbright. That's 1,338 people, pretty much a two-person unit. Now imagine the influx of folks, especially if a lot of those are seasonal, during this time of year. So, I mean, there is a consideration we do have to, because we have kicked the can down the road a long time, but still there's a lot, I think a lot more than just Old Ocean. It's actually the beaches, and I'm not trying to inhibit people from going to the beach, but you have to understand that Town of Ocean Ridge is going to incur a lot more costs in having to take care of all these folks that come to the beach. The trash involved, the traffic, the police department has to take care of it. So all those issues are going to cost each one of us more tax dollars in order to be able to take care of the fact that the amount of folks that will be coming over from the bridge. So that's a consideration the Town of Ocean Ridge really needs to take into account. And when you start thinking about that, those costs and what it's going to take to keep a handle on it. Just the trash alone, after Sunday afternoon. Is
on a regular nice Sunday.
Absolutely.
Right.
And what Billy and the other maintenance guys have to do to get that trash on Mondays, it takes them 2 days.
Would it make sense to potentially have a task force to start looking at some of this stuff and put
Workshop?
time together? Not a workshop, no.
I think, you can, I mean, I'll be part of whatever. you want to
Something
do.
that we could, I think we need to reach out to the residents, because the last meeting I was at, so many people acted like, oh my God, I haven't heard this before and you're shoving something down my throat. This is a project for everybody to take part in, because we all have to live with it. So however we can come up with, Tracy, whatever you could think that we could come up with that would be able to make sure we include residents' ideas and what have you, so we don't get down the road with some thoughts and then have it blow up in our face. We want people to know ahead of the time that A, they're part of the deal, and B, this is what other people are saying.
Well, I
For
think,
the next month or two, we can start collecting data
Right.
on, whether we have speeding on that road.
Right.
We have the speed signs that we can deploy and collect data
Right.
on number of, cars and how fast they're going and things like that.
Right, and, as you see, like this morning when I went out to take my walk, I'm just standing there thinking, I almost took a picture. I was probably counting easily 100+ people. 40, at least 40 behind me, where I am, I'm down at the south end, so there were at least 40 behind me, and 2 to 3 times that much I could see, because as you know, Chief, when you drive, nobody's staying on the side. Everybody's like this, and no one's looking behind them. So what do you think?
Yeah, and the bigger concern we have, and it's been brought up to the police, command staff for the last 2.5 years because of COVID. First and foremost, Old Ocean is a roadway. And that is what many folks don't realize. They have earbuds in, they don't pay attention to anything that's going on around them. They're just on a mission to walk or exercise, and it's a beautiful place to do it. But it's also potentially a very unsafe place to do it if you're not alert to your surroundings. So I do see that there is concern for safety in that area, probably increased over the last couple of years, more because of the increase in population and the fact that more people are at home, more people are exercising, and it's a beautiful place to do that. Deborah is out there frequently in the morning times on a low-speed vehicle, and even on that small vehicle, she has to weave around animals, people, bicycles. People don't obey the stop signs, even on bicycles and cars, anything.
Or the golf carts. I see golf carts with 4-year-olds driving them, and mom in the back seat. I was like, oh my God.
And we delicately try our best to balance enforcement with opportunity for people to utilize the area. So, we have some residents that constantly call and complain about all of those things, which technically there are violations occurring. But I know the residents don't want to see us out there writing citations for people walking against, the proper pathways, and, it's one of those things that's very delicate, and it's very difficult to really take an enforcement strategy. It's really more realistic for us as a town to look at a true overall solution moving forward.
That's what I think.
Chief, is that a state road like A1A?
It is not.
No, it's not.
It's
It's
town,
owned by the
right?
town.
Yeah, the town, which should kind of make it a little simpler to a certain extent, except for the residents that all come in and out. I get that part. But
We are going to be deploying speed signs. We actually took one down today in
Good.
another area. It will be going to probably south of Beachway on Old Ocean. It is a sign that allows us to collect data about traffic events and activities during timelines, so we can kind of see some of that as well. It's not a solution to fix the problem, and it's not truly always accurate data, because when the sign's up, we typically see a reduction
Or they
in
slow
speed
down.
violations. So it doesn't sometimes give us a true realistic picture to what we're dealing with, but it will at least give us a snapshot that we can utilize to try to kind of get an idea of how many vehicles are flowing during certain times.
There you go.
So I sympathize with you, and we've been there, done that. And it's really, well, what it comes down to practically wise, is you gotta have, there's 2 big problems. The people going right through the red lights at up to 20 miles an hour, and the people dropping off and unloading. Those are the 2 items that we can control. The other items, when you try to control the other items, every single community and every single person views Old Ocean differently. So this group will want this speed bumps, let's say this group will say, no, I'm gonna trip over them. But as that apartment Riverwalk gets finished, I don't see any way around it. We're not gonna have to have more police officers on Old Ocean to block the drop off, because it's going to be frenetic. And the people are just blowing through the stoplights. We had a police car that you guys were kind enough to leave at Beachway and Old Ocean. And that stopped a lot of this until they realized there's no one.
There was no one, yeah.
It lasted about
Ghost
2 or
car.
3 weeks.
Correct.
Yeah. So what we're really, is part of what Susan's bringing up, it's a very difficult subject to embrace. And you gotta come down to needing more officers on Old Ocean as those apartments open. That's what it's gonna amount to.
One of the things we may consider, obviously I'm not making this recommendation to you without data, But one of the things that we consider is potentially looking at doing some kind of parking enforcement specialists that we assign civilian persons to do that at a reduced rate of pay.
All right,
where we're not
volunteer.
paying a police
And give them a
officer,
helmet.
but they're on a police,
And a
they're in a
taser?
police vehicle.
Well, the volunteer, they do that on the beach in Del Rey, and they're volunteers, all of them.
So there are some other things that we can look at, especially if we decided we wanted to look at a holistic
We're not
approach.
getting it done.
That we could maybe incorporate some of those things as well.
Yeah, there's gotta be ideas out there. There's a lot of brains in this town. Come up with
And there's a lot of, we're not the only municipality with this issue, so potentially reaching out to other like municipalities and see how they're handling things would be good. I like number one, it's an enforcement thing, right? We can have all the rules we want, but it's an enforcement thing. Second thing is though, I like engaging the public early and often before it ever comes to, we're gonna spend this amount of money to even test pilot this.
Right.
Because we've been through this meat grinder before, and I'm not gonna sit up here and be ground.
No, exactly
Yeah.
right. It gets hard. Everybody needs to take part.
Has there ever been a discussion, and Steve, you would be the one you're the one that is directly impacted by this. The cars that are coming from Boynton, that are going to the ocean drop off, let's call it drop off, they're coming right down the street.
Yep.
So every time I come on that intersection, which is at least 2-3 times a day, I'm looking at Beachway and I'm thinking, if we would make this one way.
Hold on a minute. Do you want the map?
in
You
there?
want the map? I give you the map. We actually
Just
changed all
don't
the
when you say
traffic.
that again.
By the way, we might have reached a point
Yeah,
now
maybe
where we
people
need to
won't
make
be
it
crying
go
about
west.
Yeah.
We might have reached that.
I would
What's
love it, Commissioner, if you
We
could
had a
share
good
what
job.
you have
So
with all commissions. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But like you said, we might be at the point where people will reconsider those big no's we heard 6 years ago. You
Big-
never know.
Big,
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I said, there I heard it.
this is cold.
Okay. I like what I'm hearing because I hate committees because we have too many of them, but boy, do we need one. And I think we need to be proactive as to what's going to happen to this town in the next 5 years. I don't know how you all can kind of get along together. I don't know if you can form a committee with citizens and maybe have one commissioner come one day, another one come another day, so you guys all know what the public is thinking. I know having an open forum at a meeting like this, we would be here till 2 o'clock in the morning, and that can't happen. But I think that, I'm very open to helping, doing whatever I could, but I think we definitely need to look into all of this stuff. Thank you.
You're welcome. Are you volunteering to be the head of the task force?
I will help you.
Careful with your volunteer. Good evening.
It's been a while.
I know.
Melanie Rodriguez, Fayette. I agree with the things you're saying, but I find it very interesting that we're going to protect Beachway. We have a commissioner there. We may want it one way. Fantastic, but that's a public beach, which has been very hidden in the past couple of years because we've known what's coming. Now we have another commissioner that faces old A1A. Now we're noticing the traffic and the people. We on Fayette live on a dead-end street. We have been asking for help for years, but it has been approved to have a crosswalk lead into our neighborhood, which means, hello, there's a way to get to the beach here. And we're still having issues. Somebody's had their mailbox hit, their car hit because we get the turnarounds, dead-end street, and now we're gonna have a crosswalk going into our neighborhood. That's like a flashing light. Come on through. And we're already having issues. Beachway is open to the public. It's a public beach. So why would we make that one way to protect just a couple people? We have a whole community here that are not mayors, that are not commissioners. We've been asking for help for years and not getting it. So I find this very interesting that it's going to affect a few people on this panel. And now we're like, oh, let's look into it, slow traffic down. So we'd like the other neighborhoods to be considered.
Absolutely. It would be a joint strategy for not only Beachway, but the streets that feed into Beachway feed over to the crosswalk. So I hear you loud and
I
clear.
mean, we're dealing with it already and we don't even have a crosswalk yet. And it affects us every day. And
Absolutely.
we've been at all these meetings and gotten nowhere. So just think of the other people.
Absolutely. It would be a town-wide engagement. I ask for one more comment and then we really don't usually take comments during this, but please, no.
Sorry, I just want to say something along with Sarah's diet. At the end of our street, I spoke with Mr. Guy lately. At the end of our street where my house is at the dead end, we observed the bowl turnaround there. The house across the way from me brought his property forward. So my house, we always get the cars hit, the sprinklers hit, the bushes knocked down. I spoke with Mr. Guy about it, and he informed me that a gentleman's agreement had been made in the past for the guy across the street from me, so that he was allowed to get permits to get his pavers brought forward, his lawn brought forward, and there's nothing I can do about it. Meanwhile, it's difficult to turn around, and my property is getting continuously damaged. Secondly, we have speeders. They come down, they realize it's a dead end, they turn around fast, and they take off. A cat was almost hit lately. I would like to see what we could do about a speed bump and some kind of a creation of a place where people could properly turn around, because it is a safety issue. Thank you.
Thank you. And then again, I think we all agree that whatever we come up with has to include all residents.
Everybody, yeah.
Yes. Okay, thank you for bringing that up. Is there any consensus on moving forward or would we like to toss it back to staff and have you advise us at the next meeting what would be the best way to go about
Gotta
it?
go forward.
Why don't you put some in the newsletter saying, hey, any ideas regarding ocean, start there?
I'd like to take it a little bit further than that.
Right, but that'd be
Start
one,
there.
no, that'd be one part, but Tracy can sit down with the staff there and figure out including something like that.
Okay.
And can I
Appreciate
get that,
Notes.
Yeah, we all want your notes, Jeff.
Yeah, that's a many, many years of saving file.
I'm gonna
Made a
take
file
this
and everything.
2007.
I'm holding on.
Is that the
What's that?
Oh, Gary's plan?
What's the plan for the one-way streets?
Yeah, Gary's.
Oh,
plan.
yeah.
On Old Ocean.
On
Oh, yeah.
our- Yeah.
Have it in.
Whisper that one.
Yeah.
Big-
Okay.
No.
We are moving on to final agenda item number 12 on the mask mandate. Town Manager Stevens, will you please advise us on this?
Yes, so Palm Beach County has reinstituted their mask mandate. As we all know, the Omicron variant positivity rate skyrocketed. Mayor, you had contacted me this weekend to add an agenda item on this so that we could discuss it. So what is your pleasure?
I do believe that not only this may be part of the discussion, but were you also contacted by the Save the Seas event group?
I was going to add that after this discussion.
Oh, well, it
But
kind of ties in.
we can- yeah.
One, so why don't we just take it all at one time? So go ahead.
Sure. So Mickey Farley had contacted me. They were going to redo their Save the Seas event, which was scheduled for 2020 and got delayed due to coronavirus. They had planned to reschedule it for February 26th of this year. They're now thinking of maybe doing it in March instead, but her and I had a conversation today and March is not going to be good either because of spring break. So maybe extending it up to April or further than that. But the Garden Club doesn't want to expend some funds on advertising for it just to get canceled, and I understand that completely. So they wanted kind of guidance from the town commission as to what a good date would be for the event.
What's this have to do with
What's the
mask
event?
mandates?
Well,
Save
it'd
the
be a
Seas
public
event.
event here at Town Hall. And the question
Right.
is, should it go forward would it be indoors, would it outdoors, would it require a mask? And no one's got a crystal ball. So
Right.
That's the easy, low hanging fruit. I'd say if you can push it off till April.
Or even May.
Right, that's what I suggested to Nikki.
Yeah.
It's an outdoor event.
Can't do May.
Outdoor,
Can't do
indoor.
May?
No, because our season, I'm not gonna stand up. Our season is done by the end of April.
Yeah, but even
Okay,
April.
the Save the Seas is an environmental thing that we're doing.
Yeah.
So it has to be done either February, March.
Wow.
April is the latest we can go.
April would hopefully be a time where we see, because what are they looking at the spike possibly January, February, because it's already going down in South Africa, which is where the first spike started. So April could be.
Just have the entire event outside.
Well, yeah, it will be outside. The reason why March is not a good time for spring break is because they rely on parking across the way, and
So
City of
April
Boynton will not
outside.
give up parking.
April outside.
If it rains,
Okay.
it rains.
So let's talk about the mask. Yeah. Rain. That's what Mother Nature does, right? Okay, let's talk about the mask mandate. So what, if there was any appetite, is the suggestion that staff only, staff and anybody within the building? I mean, where are we following? Let me start another way. Can we do something different than Palm Beach County?
Absolutely.
You
Palm
know,
Beach County's mask mandate was for county buildings. It's not a mask mandate throughout Palm Beach County.
Right, for the
It's for
buildings,
just Palm
government
Beach County buildings.
How does staff feel? I mean, we left it last time, we left it to you guys to make a decision if you wanted to do this or not.
Exactly.
Where's your pulse?
And it depends on who you talk to.
Right.
It's about half and half. We have half of our staff right now who is wearing masks voluntarily. Other half, they're not. They just don't want to wear them.
I guess that says it all.
Yeah.
What they
50-50.
said. I personally think with the way things are going here, this is what, 60 times, well, we don't have to tell you all, 60 times more contagious, even though you're not going to probably end up in a ventilator, but who needs to get sick and who needs to get other people sick? So of course, you know how I stand on this stuff anyway. So I have no problem asking people to come in town hall to put a mask on. Because you come in and you get a line of 3 people there, and you got one guy who's filling out a form for you, and he might be on this side of the plexiglass, but he's 18 inches from the guy standing next to him. So that's just my thought. I've been wearing one when I come in, and I had one on here until I sat down with our little plastic thing here. And you too, and Christy too. You too. You too. So that's where I stand.
I'd say leave it the same. Because you guys make a choice to wear a mask. I know when I go there, I look through the window, some people wear masks, I'm all right. It's up to the individual staff members. As far as the public walking into the building, it's up to the individual, the public who walks in, how safe they feel. And I also believe this is the DeSantis order that bans this. Is there not?
No.
The most recent law that was passed deals specifically with school districts and masks. It's not applicable to local governments. The only prohibition on local governments is a vaccine mandate.
Vaccine.
Not yet.
Commissioner Bishop, would you like to weigh in?
I think we left it twice to staff to decide, and I think we should leave it to staff to decide if they collectively come together and say we need masks. But if it's 50-50, it really, it should be a choice at this point.
The only thing that I'll add that we were, in our last discussions, part of the consideration was, were we going to require officers in the field when they responded to a situation to mask up? And I'd just like to ask Chief Jones, I mean, where are we with that?
So I think that in most of our responses are outdoors. Those that are indoors, any homeowner could obviously say, hey, I feel better if you have a mask, or I feel better if we meet outside versus inside. For most incidents, obviously there are some that we don't really need to have that conversation. We may need to come in without your discussion, about masks. But for the most part, that's not the case. We do have the ability, I don't know if it's something that the town manager or the commission would entertain. We have the ability to do electronic anonymous voting with our staff. We do it on all kinds of things. We have a police department system that we've had in use for a number of years that can do that. We could utilize that again and ask staff to vote anonymously. And if the voting is more than 50% one way or the other, that might be one method we could utilize so that it is taken into consideration the filling of staff without them being pressured to have consideration one way or another. As far as most of our call activity, it's split. Some of our officers wear a mask all the time. Some of them only wear the mask when it's a medical call and they don't know what the medical call is truly relating to. I think it's kind of all over the place, but I do see that the majority of people, not just staff, but residents alike, seem to use, their own judgment based on the circumstances. It's kind of difficult to answer whether it's a good idea or not, to be honest with you.
I like your idea of polling though, and I never knew that we had that capability. Did you set that up?
It's done through Power VMS, is the system that we use for policy and procedures. So we did join this year, town staff to that system.
Okay.
So now everybody has the ability to utilize it.
That answers the question.
Is that enough direction?
Well, there was no direction.
Well, but I think the direction was potentially polling
See
employees.
what the staff.
What question are you asking during the polling? Are you asking, do you think fellow staff members should wear a mask in the building? Or are you asking, do fellow staff members and all members of the public wear a mask in the building? And then you're gonna have a more divisive situation in town hall with the staffers that get outvoted. And what are you gonna do?
I honestly don't think that, just an opinion, but I don't think we need to mandate people coming into town hall or people coming into the police department, whether they wear a mask or not. We have the ability to keep them in the lobby.
Right.
And interact with them through a window, should it
Right.
feel that's.
The staff's basically going to talk about what they feel comfortable themselves in there, because
That was,
we already threw
And
that
they
out
do it.
about, and didn't get any traction on the
that
public,
was
so
from
that's
my perspective, is whether or not the employees feel like employees should wear it.
right. That's their decision.
Thank you for the clarification, Commissioner Cost. Okay, is that enough direction? Yep. All right. Any other commission comments?
Not
Seeing none, I'd like to bring this meeting to a closure at 8:12. Happy New Year, everybody.
No.